Hey, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, and today we are back talking about Lost Ark. Now, before I go any further, no, unfortunately there is still no Western release date. It makes me incredibly sad, and I'm sure for that reason a lot of you guys have probably forgotten about it, thinking maybe we're never going to get this. I have not given up hope. I still hope, and I still pray every single day that we will get a Western release. But in the meantime, I want to talk about something because recently they announced a brand new class with 2 new subclasses, and that is the Assassin, and this looks very, very cool. Plus, a little while ago, in fact it was kind of a couple of months ago, they also announced an additional subclass for the fighter class, which is the Lance Master. So I thought today we'd kind of have a little Lost Ark catch up and show you some of the new stuff. The Lance Master is actually in-game and playable. I haven't had a chance to try it myself because I haven't had a chance to play Lost Ark for quite some time, but the Assassin is dropping later on this month. I believe it's July the 31st, along with a few new things. So we're going to take a look at them, because these classes, I mean, to be fair, every Lost Ark class looks incredible. Every time you see the gameplay, every time you see the showcases, they just look really, really cool. But Assassins, if you guys know me, you know I like my Assassins, you know I like my ninjas, so this, albeit a little bit unconventional, is still very cool. So if you do enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below, let me know what you guys think, let me know if any of these appeal to you, let me know if you guys will play as these if the game comes out. But let's start off with the Assassin. So if you guys haven't seen stuff about Lost Ark before, then I will link another video we did down below which speaks about all the classes, or at least all the classes last year. That's of course changed now, but it goes through the way that it works. You basically have a top level class, and that's then split into subclasses, and they all play in their own unique ways. So the Assassin is of course a brand new class, and within that there are currently 2 subclasses. Some of the other classes have more, and they have announced that they will be adding more subclasses as the game grows, but to begin with, the Assassin is broken down into either the Blade or the Demonic. Now, I will start by saying this is not a conventional Assassin. You're not going to be going invisible, sneaking up behind enemies, using like a backstab. They are, I guess if you see them in combat, a little bit more reminiscent of, say, the fighter classes. They're very flashy, they're very kind of like up in your face, quick combos, double blades, that kind of thing. But, yo, they look very, very cool. So let's start by talking about the Blade. So the Blade is rather interesting because this class uses 2 weapons. It uses the dual wielding daggers, which you'll see here, and it also uses a longsword. So I guess it's kind of got sort of those DMC vibes because it's got this sort of demonic aspect to it as well. So you're, swapping weapons, pulling off these crazy combos. It's really flashy. And if you look at the HUD, then anytime you see blue skills, they are skills that pertain to the longsword. Meanwhile, anytime you see orange skills, they are skills that pertain to the daggers. Typically, if you compare them, the daggers seem to be a lot faster in their moves, meanwhile the longsword moves are slightly slower, so I would therefore imagine they do more damage. There are also some purple skills which use a demonic power, which is the other aspect of these classes. Now, class, as mentioned, similar behavior to fighters, so it's very fast, it's got good CC, it's all about kind of getting in, dishing out fast burst damage, and then getting out before you get hit. So they're not necessarily going to be those hefty, tanky ones, but they are very, very awesome. Now, a few things worth talking about when you look at the UI and you look at their kind of identity skills. Basically, the way that it works with the Blade is that as you're attacking, you fill up these orbs in the center of the screen, and they essentially have 2 different functions. You can consume them to buff your attack speed, and your movement speed, and that's essentially, your base tier, so you can just use that mid-combo. If you're in the middle of things, you don't necessarily want to, use it all at once, then you can use that to, burst down enemies, burst down bosses. Very, very useful, and of course, if you pair that with the fact that it's already a fast-attacking, fast-moving class, then that is pretty convenient. However, the alternative option to that is that you can consume all of them at once to activate a powerful Blade skill. So that's kind of like your super ability. Again, if you've played Lost Ark before, you've seen in the videos we did, then you'll be familiar that all classes have something. They effectively have their skill tree, they have all their skill bars, so you have your typical moves that you have in your rotations, plus they typically have some kind of super powerful move that is indicative of that class, their identity skills, if you will. So essentially, the Blade is all about switching between those 2 weapons, diving between your fast dagger combos, your slightly more powerful longsword attacks, working in some demon attacks, and just looking like a badass in the process. However, let's talk about the demonic class, because this one, I made that sort of DMC comparison for the blade, but realistically, the demonic class also kind of has that aspect to it, because this one really leans more so into the demon aspect of this class. It uses demonic blades as the main weapon, so these are kind of your dual blades. They're a little bit slower than the blade class, so this is more so a kind of heavier hitting, slightly tankier. I'm not necessarily saying it is a tank per se, but slightly tankier in behavior, and it uses these dual blade weapons, but it also can harness the demonic power and use that as a physical weapon. So most of the skills for this class will use the blades, but anytime you see the purple skills, that is when it's using demonic power. The way this class works is that anytime you're attacking, you build up this meter in the middle, and most of your skills will build this meter, so it kind of goes up and goes purple, but if you use any red skills, it will consume this as a resource. Again, this class is a little bit slower, less agile, but does seem to have a ton of AoE, so it's really, really good for just like grouping people together, smashing through them, destroying them, looking like a badass in the process. But more importantly, once you activate your identity skill, you can also turn into a demon, really, really embodying that kind of demonic aspect of this class. You get a ton of HP in the process, you get some new skills, and of course then you burn through your resource. But that is basically how it happens. So you've got two different assassin classes, one of which is sort of, you know, dual weapon focused, switching between blades, a little bit faster, maybe really good in sort of PvP, things like that. Meanwhile, you've then got the heavier hitting, like really powerful powerhouse demonic class that is just like full on aggression power, and that is very cool, and also a very kind of interesting twist on the typical assassin class. Then finally, moving on from there, I want to talk about the Lance Master, because as mentioned, this one isn't necessarily new if you've been following Lost Ark information like every single day, but if you've kind of let this lapse and you haven't necessarily paid attention to everything, then you may well have missed this one. Lance Master is actually a new addition to the fighter class, so it's a subclass for that one, and they have said in an interview that they'll be adding fourth subclasses to some of the other ones, like, you know, warrior, gunner, things like that. So, you know, they are still building on the game, even if we haven't actually got it over in the West. But this is a new addition to the fighter class, and the Lance Master is really interesting as well because it also has two different weapons. It has a glaive and it has a spear. The glaive is, you know, for my Monster Hunter players out there, this sort of chunkier looking one that actually looks like an insect glaive, and the spear is, well, a spear. Whenever you see the HUD, then the glaive is the one that uses the blue skills, and the spear is the one that uses the red skills. The spear seems to have longer animations, but then hits harder, meanwhile the glaive seems to be a little bit faster. Now, the way that this works is actually quite interesting, because when you swap weapons, you actually get a buff. So the way that this works, the way you want to basically function with this class, is that when you're attacking, you'll see in the middle of the screen, you have this little like half circle thing, and it's divided into three different chunks. As you attack, you build meter, and once you get into the different thresholds, if you swap weapon, that then gets turned into a buff, which you see appear above the health bar. Now, if you swap on one bar, you get a 5% movement speed buff. If you swap on 2 bars, you get a 10% movement speed buff and a 10% damage to enemies buff. And if you swap on the maxed 3 bars, you get 15% movement speed, 10% damage to enemies, and 25% critical damage. So if you really want to use this efficiently, what you want to be doing is attacking in, say, let's start with glaive. You're attacking glaive, you max out the meter, you swap to spear, and you then want to attack really, really quickly to build up the meter before the buff runs out, so you can swap back again and then you can refresh that buff. So effectively, if there's enough enemies, if you can use this efficiently enough, you get into a position where you can actually maintain almost 100% uptime on that buff, which is going to be incredibly useful. But that, my friends, is pretty much it for the time being. That's a quick rundown of some of the new information on Lost Ark if you haven't been staying completely up to date. There is also, with this new assassin class getting added at the end of the month, there is also a new island, a new area, There's kind of cool, exciting stuff to talk about for that. Maybe I'll do that as a follow-up video a little bit later. But for now, that's a look at some of the newer classes. Don't forget, there is a Russian closed beta happening, so maybe that's kind of a sign, I mentioned before, this could be a sign that we're getting closer to a potential Western release, and factoring in that at this year's E3, Xbox now working with Smilegate to bring one of their other games to Xbox, so I feel like the potential for Lost Ark in the future isn't actually that crazy, but it might be one of those things we have to wait like another year. Either way, I'm still hyped. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of all of these, and of course, don't forget to stay tuned for plenty more. I really hope you guys enjoyed that video. Remember to hit that subscribe button and also click on the little bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss my next upload. Also, don't forget, you can check out TwoSixNine and Paradise Central streaming over on Twitch 6 days a week. You can find a link to the multi-stream in the description box down below. Be sure to drop by and get involved. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.